a guitarist or a drummer playing that instrument, but having ideas for other parts, like let's say Spencer having an idea for guitar, or
no,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
That's completely how our band works. Like, you know, like Daniel, you know, he'll have an idea for a vocal part, or Tim will have an idea for a bass part, or you know, James will have an idea for a keyboard part. Like, we're all really like, yeah, like, because you know, I think that you know, when you get really tunnel visioned on your instrument, you kind of you lose a lot of like the possibilities of what you can do, you know, because there would be times where, you know, I would be working and there would be like this one part and I would sit for hours just be like, man, like I could do this, and then like one time in particular when we were doing this newest record, James randomly walks into the room, he's like, well, why don't you just do this? And I was just like, oh, yeah, that works, you know, and you know, I think it's just really important to have that line of communication open, and you know, it happens the same way with every instrument, you know, like there was one part in particular on the new record where Spencer was just completely stuck on this one part, and I was like, well, why don't you try this? And he was like, oh yeah, that works, okay, and you know, it's just, the more opinions they have, the better, I always think, so, yeah.
It's kind of like one of those things, if you think about something too much, you kind of black out.
Exactly, like, it's like the can't see the forest for the trees type of thing. Like, it was funny because when we left the studio, our producer, he's really blunt, he's really honest about like everything, and you know, I asked him, I was like, you know, what do you think of this record like as a whole compared to our other stuff? And he told me, he was like, dude, honestly, I don't know, because I am so thinking about every little guitar part and everything. He's like, I can't get a feel for it right now. And then like 2 weeks later, he came out to our show and he was like, yo, I listened to the record. He was like, I'm so stoked on it. And like, that's the type of thing that stokes me out, you know, like just, you know, being able to sit back and then listen to it. Like, you know, because I went 2 days without hearing any of it after we got out of the studio, and I put it in and listened to it, and I was like, dang, like I was really stoked on it. So it was nice because I had been hearing these drum parts and guitar parts and vocal parts for, like, we went into the studio May 24th and came out at the beginning of July, and I've been hearing them every minute of every day for like months, or like 2 months almost, and I couldn't get it. And then like when I stepped back and listened to it again, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah.
It's pretty cool. I never thought of a CD working like that. Like, I never thought of it like that. Like when you write a CD that go that in depth, like,
yeah,
you get blinded by it almost.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, there's you have to have some sort of like objective perspective on it when you're doing it, because, you know, there's times where we'll be working on the smallest part for so long, and we have to consciously be like, yo, like, this part is so small, we just need to step away, go get lunch, and come back and just look at the part as a whole again, you know? And, you know, because the guy who's mixing our record, actually, he sent us an email before we got out of the studio. It was like a week before we got out of the studio, and he was like, his last little comment was like, don't overcook it. If you thought it was good a month ago, it's probably still good. Yeah. And, you know, because bands do that a lot, where they'll get a bunch of stuff done and be like, well, we can just redo this and redo this and redo this, because they're just like in that mode, and you can kind of lose sight of the whole picture. So yeah.
Question: what's your favorite song to play live? Don't think. Say it.
Don't think. Breathing in a New Mentality. But now that I'm thinking about it, one of our new song that we're playing, because I've been asked that question a few times, and I always say Breathing in a New Mentality just because I love playing that song. But yeah, but the new song we're playing live is a lot of fun. So. All right. But nobody knows it, so it's kind of that's a little.
So that's why it's one
thing
for you. But
yeah, like
look at me.
Yeah, like if kids knew the song, it would be a little different. But I still love playing it, but nobody knows it yet.
Make sure to check you out when that's done. Freaking out. Adam D, he's done As I Lie Dying and August and many other metal bands from Killswitch.
He's actually here.
Yeah, I actually saw him walking by with Tim and Nick, actually. Yeah, sorry. Nick one. How was it working with him?
Awesome. Yeah.
The first time you guys had worked with him
was on Define the Great Line. Yeah, he actually wanted to record They're Only Chasing Safety. He had contacted us about that, but we didn't really know a whole lot of what he had done. Like, we knew, you know, obviously he was an awesome dude and it would be fun to work with him, but when we did They're Only Chasing Safety, he we wanted to go back with the guy that we had known. Like, we had done our 2 previous records with the guy that did They're Only Chasing Safety, and we were just like, you know, we feel good about going back to him. And yeah, in hindsight, that record didn't turn out the way that we wanted, but yeah, like, in a lot of ways it was just not exactly what we were going for. But you know, it's one of those things where you can't, it's done, you can't change it. But when we were getting ready to record Define the Great Line, we were trying to figure out who we were going to go with. We knew for a fact we weren't going back to the guy that we had done before. There was this other producer that we were wanting to go with, and we flew him down to our practice space, and we were going over songs and stuff, and it was really weird because he had this mentality of like, this is my record, and like, he's like, you need to take this part out, you need to add a vocal part here, you need to do this and that. And we sat with him for a day, and all that stuff was going on, and we were literally just hanging out that night without him. We were like by ourselves, and we were just like, this ain't gonna work. Like, but we were about to go into the studio. We were like, what are we gonna do? And James was just like, why don't we just call Adam? And because he had toured with us, and you know, he knew the energy that we were going for with the record. And
he's a funny dude.
And he's a great guy. And literally, we called him at like 1 o'clock in the morning. We were like, yo, like, do you want to do our record? And he was like, when do you want to do it? And we told him. He was like, yeah, I got nothing going on. So that, it was literally that informal. It was just like,
that's so funny.
Yeah, it was great. And it worked. It turned out awesome. And then, you know, we worked with him again on Lost in the Sound, and you know, worked out really well there. But when we were writing this new record, we realized that the direction that the songs were going wasn't really lending itself to his producing style, because he's really into like having stuff be like tight and like punchy and edited, and that like the songs that we have now, like a lot of them like rely on like a vibe and like a looseness to make them cool. And it, you know, if it was like really tight and really punchy and just like this type of thing,
he can do that, but
yeah, he can do that, but that's not what we were wanting to go for. So we didn't end up working with him on this record. And I think, well, not I think, I know that it was definitely a good decision. You know, not that he's not an awesome producer, it's just for what we were going for, it wasn't really going to work. So yeah, he's a great dude though, and I love working with him, love hanging out with him. So yeah.